Hello and welcome to the Black Catholic Messenger Show, where we keep it Black and keep it Catholic. I'm Alessandra Harris,
And I'm Gunnar Gundersen.
and today we're going to be talking about the latest news regarding Catholic University of America, their pro life group Cardinals for Life, and the invitation to Abby Johnson to speak at their university that was met with resistance. And we're also going to be talking about racism on a broader level and Catholic media. So we're thankful that you're here with us today. Gunnar Gundersen is a co-founder of Black Catholic Messenger, and we're really happy that he's joining us today. So, Gunnar, why don't you get started with the topic that we're going to talk about today?
Sure. I think what we're talking about is starting off with Abby Johnson and the invitation from Cardinals for Life to speak on the Catholic University campus about her pro-life witness and how really that advances the creation of white supremacist spaces in Catholic institutions, both CUA in particular, um, and then more broadly in the Catholic Church. And really, I think throughout the conversation, we're going to talk about how really the pro life movement is becoming more and more weaponized to further white supremacy in at least certain aspects of the pro life movement, and why people who are serious about being pro life need to be serious about being anti racist.
So there were a lot of moving parts with this story. Apparently, there was an invitation sent over 2 years ago for Abby Johnson to come and speak, and she was going to be talking about her autobiography, Unplanned. And because of COVID, because of different scheduling issues, it was rescheduled a few times, and then it was decided that it was going to be a webinar, a virtual event. So could you tell me a little bit more about what happened after that from what you know? Because I know you were following it pretty closely.
Yeah. So after the Cardinals for Life suspended the talk, so we'll start with the kind of middle of the story and go backwards. Father D'Angelo, who's the chaplain, ministry chaplain for Cardinals for Life, kind of gave a little bit of the story that you already touched on. And I guess a part of that is while they were in the midst of putting together the final schedule with Abby, she said the things she said this summer, which I think you're going to really delve deep into, about racial profiling and how police would be smart to racially profile, and really using her son as an example, her who she describes as her biracial son as an example of someone who would be smart to racially profile. And despite the fact that she said those things, they decided to move forward with finalizing her talk. Um, and Father D'Angelo, I guess, said that it was, they thought that the strength of her story, and her pro life, this is how strong her pro life witness was, kind of could overcome what they called her personal opinions or personal politics, is how that got reduced and described. And so they decided to move forward with it. And they ultimately they kind of swept away her other comments as personal politics, and they were like, and they decided, her pro life witness is so strong that that's what's going to come through when we schedule this talk. People caught wind of it. It looks like Black Catholic students and alumni, especially of the school, really spearheaded a movement, which a lot of other people started joining on social media. I joined it when I saw it. Definitely did not lead it, but I'm happy to join in. Really bringing attention to the university about how damaging the things she said were. And uh, to his credit, Father D'Angelo was reported to have put the pressure on the Cardinals for Life to, I guess, what they called not cancel but suspend indefinitely the talk. The president of the pro-life group resigned in protest. She wanted to have the talk. She felt like she said basically she was pressured in her conscience to do something that she didn't want to do, which was to cancel the talk. And then the college Republicans decided to sponsor Abby's talk, and so the talk moved forward anyway. it was still a university event, but it was through the college Republicans rather than Cardinals for Life. And and it's not altogether clear that the Cardinals for Life group, uh, you know, had some sort of enlightenment or awakening experience, uh, but got pressure from the university to end it. And then later, President Garvey came out with further statements to the university community. I don't know if you want to talk about that now, or you want to pause there and go over maybe what Abby actually said.
Well, we could pause there for a second because I have a bit of what the president or the former president of Cardinals for Life had said in her statement when she resigned. So she said, I will continue to stand in defense of the most vulnerable unborn through other means, and I will never tire of giving witness to the truth that each and every human life is a beautiful and precious gift which must be cherished, respected, and defended. And I agree with that statement. But what I don't agree with is that Abby Johnson reflects those very values that she talked about because with the comments that Abby Johnson has made about Black people and Black men in particular, it shows that she doesn't believe that every human life is beautiful and precious gifts that must be cherished. If you are going to say that it's okay for Black people to be racially profiled, which we know results in higher rates of abuse of Black people, death of Black people at the hands of police, higher rates of incarceration. When you look at those type of things that result from racial profiling, then that's not being consistent, saying that their lives matter. It's saying that I'm okay with someone racially profiling someone because of the color of their skin. So that was one of the my when I read the statement, I definitely felt like there was hypocrisy in that statement. But could you continue a little bit more with what the president ended up saying? And then we could talk a little bit more about that video that Abby Johnson had done.
Yeah, perfect. So then I think it was basically um, a day later, President Garvey sent out an email to the university community, kind of letting them know that a talk went forward that was actually, let's see, organized. I don't remember the name of the group, but there was really a more inclusive pro-life talk that ended up being sponsored on campus. Um, um, where our friend Letitia actually got to go speak. And but then Abby Johnson's speech went forward with the Catholic Republicans, and President Garvey's justification for that is basically, he recognized that the First Amendment doesn't really apply to the campus, but he did kind of intimate that they want to have a more open speaking policy, and kind of he drew the analogy to, let's have Joe Biden come speak on immigration. If we make it a litmus test on full acceptance of Catholic teaching, well, I couldn't invite Joe Biden to come talk about immigration on campus, and people would be upset about that, right? So he kind of created a situation where he brought in kind of this both sidism. Um, so what he said was, we give considerable room to students who may wish to hear a particular speaker on a point of view. Um, and and so he tried to reduce this to the idea that the students that invited her to speak want her to speak about her experience working for Planned Parenthood and her embrace of pro-life. Um, and so he just basically kind of left it like that this principle of the people who are objecting to Abby Johnson speaking on campus would disqualify speakers like Joe Biden. They said, well, even if Joe Biden came to talk about immigration, because we know he doesn't agree with church teaching on the best way to politically support the unborn. Um, you know, we wouldn't be able to have those kind of speakers, and so kind of left it like you have to let us promote Abby as a speaker on campus if you want to have um, pro-choice speakers on campus, essentially. Um, and I think that's kind of disturbing because it really reduces the harm that Abby's creating through promoting white supremacy and creating white supremacist spaces on campus. It equates that with a political disagreement, um, and it's not politics to demand that Black students and alumni and faculty have a safe space to go to school, work, learn. It's not the same thing. And so I think we're going to keep talking about that by really delving deep into what Abby said.
Mhm.
Um, you're going to do that for us, and then we'll talk about why that creates that unsafe environment on college campus.
And on my YouTube channel, Alessandra Harris Author, I have a video that was Simca Fisher and then myself and three other Black Catholics talking about Abby Johnson's video and kind of deconstructing from a Black perspective how harmful it was. And so that video's up, and also on Simca Fisher's website, she has a transcript of it. So if anyone, it's over an hour long. If anyone really wants to delve into that, it's there. But I'm just going to kind of briefly highlight what was talked about. Um, so Abby Johnson had said that she's okay with her son being racially profiled. She said that 70% of Black fathers aren't in the home, and that Black fathers don't want to be in the home, and it's acceptable in the Black community for them to be with multiple women. And she ended by saying that if Black Americans want to start rioting and talking about something, this was in reference to the Black Lives Matter protest over the summer, that this is it. This meaning the what she says is the absence of Black fathers in the home. And she said it's not because of bad cops, it's bad dads. The root is not with bad cops. The root starts at home. So I felt very offended by that, as I know a lot of Black Catholics felt offended by that. And it was frankly wrong. The statistics were wrong. The Institute for Family Studies, which is a conservative think tank, cites that 36% of Black families are headed by a married couple. 8% are headed by cohabiting parents, which means 44% right there have a father and a mother in the home. 3% are also headed by single dads. So that's almost 50% of households that have a Black dad in the home. And that doesn't take into account the families where they might be divorced or they might have not been married, and the father has visitation rights. The kids go half the time or however much time and spend time with their family. So this whole 70% statistic is just flat out wrong. And in the video, we also really talk about the history behind Black fathers not being in the home, how it goes back to um, policies with welfare where you wouldn't be able to qualify for any type of government assistance if there was a male in the household. We talked about the white flight that happened in the 60s when the urban areas, the white people left for the suburbs and took with them the jobs and the opportunities. So in a lot of these predominantly Black neighborhoods, there aren't the economic opportunities, that the schools are underfunded. And there's just so many issues that go into the some of these concerns in the Black community. So for someone to just attack Black people, attack Black men, attack Black families, that's the opposite of pro-life. And like you said, that is contributing to the white supremacy and the pro-life movement.
Yeah, I think while we're talking about misleading statistics, I think this would be a good place for you to bring up the other woman that brought up the statistics to defend Abby. And I think I just wanted to kind of contextualize that in the fact that Abby in her talk kept kind of coming back to try to make it seem like it was very objective. Oh, I just follow the statistics, I research, and it's this weaponizing of statistics with the white supremacist point of view that's interpreting that information or maybe even misrepresenting what the information says. And I think what came out is there was a host at Guadalupe Radio Network who, in response to people bringing up these concerns about Abby, kind of basically doubled down on the narrative that Black men are hyper violent or extra aggressive than other people. And it really brought, we were talking before the podcast started recording, how this just highlights a further part of the problem, that as we continue to amplify and give platforms to people like Abby Johnson, what happens is that other people circle the wagons. They want to defend this woman who is basically getting an imprimatur from Catholic institutions. They think she represents what's good, what's a good Catholic. And so, in order to defend her, they have to defend her words, which are racist words. So then they have to further adopt a racist narrative to hold her up. And so it really kind of seduces people into becoming more racist. So it's actually spreading the racism because people will do it to defend the person who's saying the
Absolutely.
things.
I was really disappointed when I saw that it was Emily Alcaraz, who's the host of the Catholic Drive on Guadalupe Radio Network, who had tried to say that Black men commit the most homicides. Her account, what she later turned it private, so I don't have the exact quote of the tweet, but the essence was that Black men are more violent than white men, so that what Abby Johnson is saying about them is accurate. And like you said, when people are supporting Abby Johnson and supporting her racism, then they in turn are perpetuating these racist stereotypes against Black people. And as the host of Guadalupe Radio Network, a show at Guadalupe Radio Network, that's really concerning that Catholic media continues to be a place where personalities like this go unchecked when they, are racist against Black people and perpetuate stereotypes. And we all have seen how when Gloria Purvis was speaking out against racism, that her show was taken off air. And then we see another Black Catholic who's given a slot on Guadalupe Radio Network, David Gray, who had said in a video that Black people who say Black Lives Matter should be excommunicated. So you have a radio station that's giving voice to people who are anti-Black and who are saying very hurtful and very discriminatory statements about Black people. So exactly like you said, when you act like we only have one pro-life speaker who can speak on campuses or who can be at at a march, that's inaccurate. And you had mentioned Leticia Ochoa, who had created the Catholic Speakers of Color. She has all these speakers who can speak, who aren't going to be saying anything racist. Like, there's a lot of options out there.
I completely agree. I mean, it's becoming almost, if I can say it, a kind of cult-like, that only this person can reach people. Only this person has a story that's so powerful that no matter what other terrible things she says, she must be allowed to speak because I don't know. It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell ring, an angel gets his wings. They act like every time this woman speaks, like 5 babies are saved or something. Like I have no idea why they think this or where they're getting this idea from, but it's totally false. Um, I wanted to bring up. I have a strong personal devotion to Sister Thea Bowman, who's an alum of Catholic University of America, and in 1989, she gave a speech to the bishops, right, about our men. Right, she said a disproportionate number of our men are dying of suicide and AIDS and drug abuse. And here's the kicker: and low self-esteem and low self-esteem. And, you know, it's so true. And I don't know how to reach the people at Catholic University of America or Guadalupe Radio Network, any of these places. But these words um, are violence to they're literally causing the death of uh, our men in our community. And I think about it, you know, how could I send my children to a campus where they're going to hear that their dad inherently is a bad father, more likely to be one, that their brother is violent, inherently going to be more violent. Um, Basically, they have they're destined to have poor selection in a mate. My daughters, you know, how can you participate in that? How is that a safe space to learn? Uh, and this is really um, where I'm getting at, is that this isn't just a disagreement with church teaching, right? This isn't just, oh, I'm confused about the Trinity, or even, you know, well, you know, I know how strongly people feel about abortion. You know, I believe abortion's intrinsically wrong. Um, but any of those kind of disagreements, if there's a pro-life, if there's a pro-choice speaker comes to campus, it doesn't automatically cause me to participate in an abortion. I'm not guilty of abortion from going and hearing somebody talk on a topic that's not abortion. Like, for example, Joe Biden comes talks about immigration. I'm there. I'm talking about immigration. I didn't participate in abortion. The whole point of white supremacy is that white people are the most qualified to lead, to speak, that spaces inherently belong to white people. If I platform a white supremacist, if I platform someone who says that Black people are inherently inferior, then I am advancing the narrative. I am participating in the white supremacist ideology by providing the speaking opportunity to the person who believes and says those things. So it is completely different. This is not a situation where we're just letting dissenting voices have a say and having a meaningful conversation where we can come to some agreement and learn to listen to one another. This is about advancing through the promotion of the white supremacists, a white supremacist space. It creates a place where people are forced to participate and experience white supremacy by the very nature of having the speaker at the event.
And when you bring up Sister Thea Bowman's address to the bishops, she had started singing the gospel song, Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. And sometimes as a Black Catholic, that's exactly how it feels. That when racism is allowed to be perpetuated and it goes unchecked, when you give an audience to people who continue to say harmful things to the Black community, that it really feels like we are being abandoned in a way. And for all those students at Catholic University of America, the Black students who have to sit back and basically be told that your feelings aren't enough for, we're not going to listen to your feelings enough to cancel this talk. And it's like, what kind of message does that give to Black students? What kind of message does Guadalupe Radio Network, having these hosts, continue to, you know, have a show in spite of what they're saying about Black people? What kind of message does that give to Black Catholics? And that's one of the reasons I'm so glad that we have Black Catholic Messenger, so that we're able to voice our opinions in a way that really uplifts Black Catholics and the Black community as a whole.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you mentioned to me that the alumni group actually had laid out a timeline where even 10 years ago they were trying to talk to the university about not having Abby Johnson come speak because of, I mean, I don't even know what the context was at the time of other things that she had said. So the other thing too is, right, it's it's starting to sound like maybe people are getting a message. I'm not as involved in the university campus, but it sounds like those people are maybe starting to hear a message that the voices of Black Catholics, Black students, alumni are almost invisible, which is also a terrible message to hear. But I also wanted to touch on a point. I know there's the famous interview clip, Toni Morrison, talking about how racism, we have to deal with it, but it's not a black person problem, right? It's like white people need to address the racism that they're engaging in. Why is it that you can only feel tall if someone else is on their knees? I think is one of the examples she gives as she goes through that talk. And I think we're starting to really see that that is the problem. If these conversations were happening 10 years ago and people are still acting surprised now, or they're waiting, people shouldn't have to wait. The white people at Catholic universities shouldn't have to wait to hear from a black person someone saying it's smart to racially profile me is unacceptable. Quite frankly, it's unacceptable that the black student group has to go out of their way to say that. Well, why isn't it immediately obvious that saying that black people are inherently more violent or inherently uh, worse fathers, um, a non-starter? And I think that's something that I hope the people, I know Father D'Angelo said he's going to take some time in prayer and reflection about how they got to this place. I really hope it bears fruit. I'm praying for his prayers, um, because this really is something that doesn't it doesn't it's good to have dialogue. It's good to reach out. I mean, our voices should be heard. They need to reach out to our groups. They need to reach out to the black student groups. um but it's also work they should be doing regardless. It's something that they should be more aware of without having a big media campaign on social media and move on petitions sent to them.
Yeah.
um
And I know that over 2,000 people had signed the Move On petition, calling for Abby Johnson not to speak at the campus. And I just wanted to say that we're not speaking about these issues from a place of denial. Like, for example, we know that gun violence is a really big problem in some inner city neighborhoods. And I was just reading a statistic that the murder rate has gone up after in 2020 after the lockdown ended. That in white communities and the murder rate stayed about the same, but it went up in black communities. And they were trying to say like what's going on exactly. And this is why it's so important to talk about things from a place of like respect and love, because I can honestly look at that and I can also say that's why we're advocating for an end to systemic racism, because we know that Black and Brown communities have been hardest hit by COVID, that a lot of Black and Brown people are essential workers, that they're losing their jobs, that there aren't as many economic opportunities to this day, that there's less wealth in Black communities, that college students who are Black are more likely to have to leave college because they can't afford it. So, right now, when we're in the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, these are all issues that are hitting Black communities especially hard. And I know from going to forums for moms who have lost their children to gun violence that gun violence is a problem in Black communities. And you know what? Over policing is not solving the problem. A lot of times you hear in these communities that the police don't even try to investigate when it's a Black person who's gunned down in a Black neighborhood. And the money that's going to over policing Black communities is money that's not being spent on things like mental health programs or drug treatment programs. So when people are talking about issues like how much money goes into the police budget, then we're saying, how can those dollars be used towards community programs that are going to get to the root of the problem that is causing violence, instead of just saying, oh, because there's violence, we need more police in the neighborhood? So, that's the difference between looking at things from a place of love and from a place of respect and from a Black perspective versus looking at just a number and then because of that, trying to say that Black people are more violent or Black people, this or that or the other. It's like not trying to talk at people, but it's trying to say, like, okay, what is the community saying is the issue and how can we address those problems?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think a big issue for me too is just the framing, in the sense that if you really believe that all people are equal, then when you see a disparity, then you're going to be asking what's causing this? What's systematically causing this? Your response want to be, "Oh, well, what's wrong with that person? What's wrong with those people? There must be something inherently wrong with those people for there to be this disparity." The non-racist response is, wow, these are fellow human beings like me, and they're experiencing this kind of violence at a greater rate than I am. uh, what must be causing that? Like let's look at the systemic problems there. Let's look at what's happening there, not from a perspective of, oh, these people are inherently defective in some way and that's why it's causing this problem. And that's this danger that you see coming out from how Abby Johnson decided to look at statistics, right? Instead of saying, oh, look, there's these violent incidences that are happening. I wonder how their communities being affected by our entire culture, our entire system, our entire attitudes. What's creating this situation? How are we all contributing to it? It's just, oh, there's something wrong with their dads. There's something wrong with their men.
And
That's the racism.
when we're talking about people who are whole life versus just anti-abortion, for example, when you're whole life, then you're saying that if people are getting killed in neighborhoods, that's an issue that needs to be addressed. It's not just saying that abortion's the only issue that we're concerned about. That if once a baby's born, then our concern for them stops, our advocacy for them stops. It's about a consistent life ethic from womb to tomb, that all life matters and that we're gonna, like you said, it's like if there are Black people being disproportionately killed, then what are we doing to try to figure that out? What are solutions are we trying to do as a Catholic community to change that? And one thing that has always stuck with me, in 2004, I went to Venezuela and I was talking to a Cuban doctor who was there. There was a lot of Cuban doctors who were working there. And I had said, we were talking about the crime rate. It was not as bad as it is now. Right now, we all know Venezuela is in really bad shape. But at the time, I had said, is there a lot of crime because people are so poor here? And he said, no, there's a lot of crime because there's so many guns. And it's the same thing in the Black community. You hear about just guns being available, so much. And there's even questions like, where exactly are all of these guns coming from? And when you have people who are saying they're pro life, but also refuse to do anything about our gun problem in this country, then again, it's like, where is the consistent life ethic? We have to look at these issues and we have to address them.
Yeah, and there's the economic opportunities too, right? I mean, part of the reason those guns are tempting is the things you can get with the guns, because there's not good investment from the community, like from the broader community into the communities where the violence is happening. We're not investing in those places, so people have other options, right? That's part of what gets tempting about the gun, right? I think um, it's a whole, like you said, it's a whole life issue, and part of it starts becoming this, right? This view of the statistics, as Abby talks about it, becomes the justification to not offer the help, right? It's like, oh well, I look at the statistics. You guys got to go fix yourselves, and then maybe if you do, I'll maybe then we'll send some investment your way into your community. When it's the investment in the community that needs to happen to provide greater opportunities for more positive pathways, because again, It's all about the attitude, because what's being betrayed is, well, it doesn't matter how much I invest in this community. There's something wrong with you. That's the underlying issue. Instead of saying, oh, there is nothing wrong with you. You're a fellow human being. You're equal, and yet this situation is occurring. There must be something wrong in the situation, not the person. And I think, um, or for a lot of the people who have difficulty understanding where the racism is in these statements about statistics, so how these things get sanitized through mathematics, is that's where it is. It's that you're using the mathematics to drive a narrative about the inherent worth and value, um, of a people and a culture, um, that basically bakes in the racial inferiority. You're not looking at it as you would a situation if you viewed the person as equal, as the person is inherently just as good as you are, and then you found these people in this condition. Be like, oh well, obviously you need help. You need, what resources do you need? Listen to the people. What's going on in your community? What do you need to help, you know, get out of these problems? Instead, it's just lecture, get better, your culture's inferior, you're all more dangerous. You guys got to really work on that. I mean, that's the difference. As you said, there's no respect, no love. Um, it's baked in. It's baked in with white supremacy, and
And I think that the biggest problem is that when we are Catholic and when we're promoting Catholic speakers, it's like if you're not looking at every person as made in the image and likeness of God and as a brother and sister in Christ and deserving that respect and that love, that you would lay your life down for them, then why are we promoting people to be a spokesperson for the Catholic Church if we're not going to live up to that? I think that it's really important that we don't say, like, oh, well, racism is just a flaw. Everyone's flawed. And it's like, no, we have to change the narrative and say that if you're going to be speaking about the Black community like this, that we're no longer going to promote speakers like that.
yeah, I agree, and that goes back to the statement that you brought up about the other Guadalupe Radio Network, person who brought even more racist analogies analysis to bear to defend Abby. This is the problem. The problem is, and you see it already happening. She's become such a big celebrity that it's getting harder and harder to address her racism, and it's becoming easier and easier to participate in it, because the bigger her platform, the more important her personality is seen as being important and integral to the pro-life movement, the harder it becomes to address her racism. And then she also, as she moves up and gets more power, she gets to be a shot caller. She gets to decide who is part of the movement, who gets to participate with the other pro-life groups, who gets to be in those spaces. And she's saying that it's smart to view Black people with suspicion. It's smart to view us with suspicion. So what are those spaces going to start looking like? Who's going to be in there? This is this is like a 5 alarm fire for me. This is so dangerous that it's gotten this far, and it's so dangerous that people can't see where it's headed if it's allowed to continue. It's really a participation in white supremacy. It's not just a, oh well, yes, she says some things about race that makes me uncomfortable. I wouldn't have said it that way, but she's such a strong witness. No, it we have to get rid of the idea that there's a socially acceptable level of racism. That's it. That has to be it.
I agree 100%. And I'm looking forward, Gunnar, because you are writing about this more. So, whether it's published with BCM or with another publication, I am looking forward to that because I think that this is a conversation that we need to continue to have. And like you said, hopefully it's not just going to be Black Catholics having this conversation. Hopefully, non-Black Catholics are going to also be participating in this conversation. So with that, I think that we're going to end the show. Gunnar, can you tell people where people can find you online?
Well, I'm on Twitter at GB Gundersen. That's probably the best place to find me. I'm most active on there. Um, and then you'll see a pinned tweet I usually put up wherever I'm newly posted for articles and things like that. And my pinned tweet basically has all the different publications that I've been published at.
Okay, great. And you can find me on Twitter at Alessandra H17 and on Instagram, alessandra.harris17. And if you want to reach out to Black Catholic Messenger and if you want to contribute a story or come on talk with us on our podcast, you can go to our website, blackcatholicmessenger.com. And we're also on Twitter at BLKCATH stories. So thank you everyone for listening, and we look forward to the next show. Oh, I was going to say that Ash Wednesday is on Wednesday, and I heard someone on Twitter saying if you haven't found out what you want to give up yet, feel free to give up racism. So I'll end on that, and everyone have a nice day.